one, the only, Richard Skipper!
Marge Champion, Roy Reams, Amber Edwards, Donald Pippin, Sondra Lee, Clea Blackford, Ken Bloom, and on piano John Fisher, Miles Phillips. And I put my hand in here. I twist a little, stir a little, hem a little, fur a little, shape a little, mold a little, some poor cat gets sold a little. When I use my fist a little, some young bride gets kissed a little. Pressure with my thumbs, matrimony comes when I put my hand in there. Marge, could you tell us a little bit about the initial casting choices for Dolly and if the other direction that the show would have gone in?
Well, it was actually written for Ethel Merman.
Ethel Merman.
Yes. And she was the last one. She was the last one on Broadway who did it.
Ethel Merman was the original choice, the original idea, but she turned them down. Because the remarkable thing about Ethel Merman is she never had a flop. From 1930 on, my definition of a flop, my definition of a hit, let's put it this way. Merman had 8 shows that ran in the 1930s. None of them ran for less than 6 months. Some of them ran over her career for years and years, are the greatest shows in our canon. But there was never an opening night as also closing night for Ethel Merman, ever. So when they called her with an idea to make The Matchmaker into a musical and they wanted her to be Dolly Levi, it never occurred to her that it might not work. She just didn't want to, she wanted to have dinner when everybody else was having dinner, and she wanted to go see theater with other people, like at regular show times. And so she turned him down. But the way I hear it, now I did get to finally meet and talk to Jerry about this, because I'd been telling the story for years and years, but it's different when he's sitting in front of you. So I tried to get my fact check, I did my fact checking and asked him, but when David Merrick and Jerry got together one day and put in a call to Merman at the very beginning to ask her to originate this role and to do the musical. And she turned him down for the reasons I just talked about, and they went another direction. Because David Merrick was they called him the abominable showman, you probably know that. And he did something, he kept Hello Dolly an extremely hot ticket throughout its run by doing something that is absolutely commonplace today. And that is replace your star with another star. This has destroyed my career, but I don't want this to be a sad day. So of course, after he sent Carol Channing out to convert the rest of the world to Hello Dolly, there was Ginger Rogers and Betty Grable, and B.B. Osterwald filled in for everybody. Pearl Bailey, who else? Martha Ray, Phyllis Diller. Eve Arden. When it came time to Carol Cook. Good, I like Mary Martin. Mary Martin went to Vietnam. That's another show, but the same Hello Dolly. But anyway, every time he needed a new Dolly, he would call Ethel Merman. Every time she would say no. For some reason, on the 13th try, he said, 7 years into the run, he called Merman, and apparently she said, well, now that you got your previews out of the way, I'll come and I'll open your show. She also said, I understand there were a couple of songs that were written for me that are not part of the show. And they said that's true. So they made arrangements. She went down to Jerry's house. He sang through 2 songs that had been written for her, and she loved them. He said he was crying listening to, she had inspired him as a kid when he saw her in Annie, Get Your Gun. It's the reason he went into show business, he said. He was crying listening to her sing them. David Merrick saw a great opportunity, and they put the 2 songs into the run of Hello Dolly. Anybody who saw her do it, the show ran about apparently 12 or 15 minutes longer, and they just plunked these 2 songs in the most natural spot they could find. I'm going to do World Take Me Back, and it is obviously what would grow up to be the idea of before the parade passes by. But where they actually plunked this down, in one, they just closed a curtain, and it was about, I don't know, 3 or 4 songs into the first act. So, for today the world is ripe as a peach. It's gonna be mine till I reach 110. My step has a spring and drive. I'm suddenly young and alive. You wonderful world, take me back
During 42nd Street, after about the first year, David Merrick had an unfortunate stroke. And he was recuperating, and during that period, on the weekends, while I was doing 42nd Street, I performed at Freddy's on the East Side. You all remember Freddy's? Oh, yeah. On the East Side. It's a little dark nightclub. And I did the second shows there. And while David was recuperating, his was not his wife, his ex-wife, then she became his wife after that, Aton, called me on the phone, and she said, David is recuperating. He hasn't shown any interest in leaving the apartment, and he keeps pointing to your picture in the paper about Freddy's, and he wants to come see you. She said, and the doctor's very happy about that. But she said, when he comes, we don't want pictures taken because he's lost his speech. He walks with a cane, and he's not in great shape. But he wants to come and see you, and that's a good thing. So I said, fine, there'll be no photographers there. Bring him on. So he came to the nightclub. I went to meet him at the door, and as Aton and I are walking into Freddy's, he starts mumbling something, and he's going forward, and we thought he was falling, and we kept pulling him back. And he finally went over, found a penny on the floor, and put it in his pocket. So the next day, you all remember dear, dear Peter Howard. He was such a wonderful, wonderful man. I worked with Peter so much. Yes, Peter, we're applauding you. And I told Peter this story, and he said, my God, Leroy, there was a song in Hello, Dolly called Penny in My Pocket. And he said, I'm going to go get it. He went back through his files, took out pieces. He didn't even have a whole sheet of it, and put it together and played it for me. I said, I'm going to learn the song. And I called Jerry, and Jerry said, my God, I've even forgot that I wrote it. He said, how does it go? So Peter and I did it for him over the phone, so that's how we discovered this song. And it was the end of the first act, and of course, the character of Horace Vandergelder one day found a penny. A silo and a steed, old Yonkers started buying grain and hay and feed, and now I've $500,000, and proudly I confess that in my pocket is that penny, yes, that shiny little penny. It's that penny that's the secret of my success.
The lyrics to those songs by Jerry Herman are all in this incredible book. Jerry Herman, the lyrics, A Celebration by Ken Bloom.
So much a fan of everything. He's not jaded at all. He's still a big fan, not only of his own stuff, but other people's works also. And I'll say of all the composers I know about or met, he's the one who helps out the most for his productions. He'll put money up if you need money for costumes. He'll give you costume money. When they did Mac and Mabel for Broadway Cares, they wanted the Rockettes to be the bathing beauties. They didn't have any money for the Rockettes, so Jerry put up the money for the Rockettes to be in the show.
How did the documentary come about, and what was your inspiration to, because doing a documentary, as I'm sure you know, takes a long time.
It does. It took about 5 years to act from the time I started shooting to the time I finished it. And I think during, I guess the inspiration came from feeling that Jerry Herman was an undervalued and underappreciated songwriter, and that there was more to his work than met the eye.
You and Jerry actually met during Ben Franklin
That's
in Paris.
Right. Well, it was a show that was in trouble with the score, so it's one of those shows where everything's wrong with the show, so you decide to change the score. So they brought in Jerry to ghostwrite, and this is the first time I met him. and we became friends. We had an instant rapport, and he wrote marvelous songs for it. It was just really wonderful. There's one song that he wrote, which I think is one of the loveliest things, called To Be Alone With You. And as Jerry and I both know, practically nobody knows the song. So whenever that we're at a party, and I know he's there and he knows I'm there, and we can't find each other, one of us will go to the piano and start playing it, because we know it means the other person is there.
Sondra, do you have any memories of Jerry with Hello, Dolly?
Actually, I do. Yes. Okay. I'm very glad I came, because half of the stories about Hello, Dolly, I tell you, I never knew.
Making me recall how lovely love can be. And so I will proudly wear ribbons down my back, shining in my hair. Don't look for shooting stars.
Thank you, Richard. It was fantastic. And Ken Bloom, I've been trying to get you to do a program for us for years.